it's Sarah from Our Kind of Crazy, and we want to share with you 36 ways to cut your wedding budget in half. Weddings are crazy expensive. Now, I just looked up the national average of a wedding in the United States. Brace yourselves. According to Wedding Wire, in 2019, the average cost of getting married in the United States was $38,700. Now, if you scroll through, you'll see some people saying that a national cost is $34,000 and some even reporting $45,000 for a wedding average in the United States. So between $30,000 and $40,000 people are spending on their wedding day. That's just insane to me. I could never have imagined spending that much money on one day. I get it. It is the most special day of your life. You're only going to do this once, or at least that's the point. But spending that much on one day is just crazy to think about. Like, do you know what you could do with $35,000? You could take the most epic honeymoon. That is a crazy awesome down payment on a house. And you could purchase a brand new, really nice car for that amount of money. Now, if you're anything like us and you can't imagine spending anywhere near that amount of money on one day, then stay tuned because we have 36 awesome ideas for you to cut that in half, at least. Okay, so this video ended up being a lot longer than I expected, so we're actually gonna break it into two parts. So this week, I'm gonna share with you 18 of the 36 ideas, and next week, I'll share the other 18 with you. So let's get started. First off, let's start with one of the biggest ones, and that is cut your wedding list. Now, this one was going to be very difficult for me because growing up, I just expected to invite everybody that I knew. But when it came down to actually writing our guest list, it was a lot easier than I expected it to be. Cutting your wedding guest list is going to help you cut the cost of basically everything you have on your wedding list. The more people you invite, the more tables you have to do, the more chairs, the more centerpieces, the more invitations, the more everything. It just doubles, triples, quadruples. However many extra people you invite, that's how much more money you're gonna end up spending. So cutting your guest list down a bit is gonna help you save a lot of money when you're planning this wedding. The next idea to help you save lots of money is to have your wedding on any day other than Saturday. Saturday is pretty much the most popular day to have your wedding. But there are tons of venues and vendors that will give you a huge discount for having your wedding on a weekday. So switching your wedding from a Saturday night to a Friday night can actually save you tons. We have actually seen venues cost thousands less for having their wedding on a Friday night versus a Saturday night. This can also help with vendors because vendors are kind of the same deal. They can actually book a wedding on Saturday and your wedding is a little bit of an extra gig for them, and so they can also give you a discount. The next tip we have that can save you a lot of money is to skip the all-inclusive. Sometimes the venues have an option where you can go with their all-inclusive option or you can do some of it yourself. Instead of jumping on their all-inclusive option, which is very tempting because you think they're just going to take care of it all, you can actually figure out things that you're going to actually use and go ahead and piece together things that you need. Sometimes if you end up going with the all-inclusive package, you're going to pay for things that you don't even want. You might end up paying for uplighting at the venue that you really don't care about, or paying for a DJ with all the extra strobe lights and stuff that you really don't want. So skipping the all-inclusive and using that money on things that you actually want to have at your wedding versus things that they're just throwing in the package will help you save lots of money. Don't give every guest a +1. Yes, we're gonna be the bad guys here. If you think about it, they break down your wedding budgets per head. So they'll say, oh, it's $50 per head, which means $50 per guest. Now, if you give each guest a +1, you're gonna be paying that extra money for every single +1 that you have. You've already cut your guest list for people you probably would have wanted to invite for somebody that you probably haven't even met yet. Now the +1 thing is a little bit tricky, so you need to make sure you're doing it in a good way. If your guest is married, they have to have a +1. But if it's a guest that has just started dating somebody who you or your fiance have never even met, then you don't have to give them a +1. There's lots of different rules and lots of different ways that you can do this. It's gonna be very personal to you. Some people do the no ring, no bring, meaning if you're not engaged or married, you don't get a +1. Some people will do +1s depending on each situation. Now we went ahead and did our bridal parties each got a +1. And anybody who was married or engaged, or actually people that we have actually met as a couple. If they were strangers and we had never met them, we weren't giving a +1 to somebody. Most people will understand, some people might get upset, but use your best judgment to see what you think is the best in each case. But saving the money for each extra +1 that you can save for somebody that you wanted to be there or save for something else that you really want to have at your wedding is worth it so much more. Have a day of wedding coordinator, but not a wedding planner. This can save you lots of money as well because you're not paying for someone to plan your wedding for you and spend months and months trying to plan it. Now, we definitely do recommend a wedding day of coordinator. There's so much going on throughout your wedding that you don't want to be the person that everyone's coming to. You don't want to throw that responsibility on your mom or your maid of honor or anybody like that. So you want to have somebody that's designated to putting out all those fires, those last minute things, and figuring out all the little things that need to be figured out in that moment. But you can totally plan your own wedding. Get a really great wedding planner, like book, not person, and use that. There's tons of different apps and stuff that have checklists that can help you out, make sure you're not forgetting anything, and it helps keep you organized. But if you don't have the budget for a wedding planner, this is not something that you have to have. Have guests RSVP on your wedding website. This will save you an extra card that you have to pay for them to send back, and it'll save you a stamp for every family that you're sending an invitation to. Everyone these days is tech savvy. We had absolutely no problems with anybody, and including people that we thought might need a little bit of help RSVPing. If they have trouble figuring out your wedding website, they'll call you, they'll text you, but save that money for something else that you really are hoping to spend it on. This can also help you save money on the initial stamp that you need to send the invitation, because for every paper you put into that invitation, it's gonna weigh more and start to cost more and more. Ask about discounts. That means your venue, your vendors, anybody that's helping out the wedding, check and see what kind of discounts they may offer. Some will offer a cash discount if you pay cash. Some will offer a you paid up front discount, and so you get to pay before the wedding and they'll give you a discount for that. And some again will give you discounts for having your wedding on a different day of the week. Now you're not asking them to lower their prices for you, but you're just checking to see what type of discounts that they would like to give you that would be beneficial for both of you. They get paid right away, you get to have a little discount. Another thing you could do is opt for a buffet style dinner rather than a plated dinner. Now, plated dinners, you have to pay for extra servers to serve each of your guests. You have to pay for cleanup, for the dishes, for the courses, for them walking around the entire time, refilling, and all of that. But if you have a buffet line, your guests can get up, go get exactly what they want, which I think is better anyway, and you don't have to pay for all those extra people to help serve your meal. One of my favorite ideas, purchase your veil on Amazon. Seriously, Amazon has some of the best bridal veils that I found out there, and for like $15. Now, when you try on your wedding dress, they probably gave you a veil that you fell in love with and matched perfectly with your dress, only to find out that it costs just as much as your wedding dress. We have seen veils cost $400, $600, $1,200 for your wedding veil. I got mine for $15 on Amazon. We also have a really cool post of a lot of different brides who have bought their veil on Amazon, and I will link that below for you to check out. But Amazon is a perfect place to get your wedding veil. They are so much cheaper, and most of them have free returns, so you can try on which one's actually gonna fit with your dress. There's no point in spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on a wedding veil that you're not gonna wear very long. It is amazing how you can find almost the exact replica of a wedding veil that you saw at a wedding shop on Amazon. So seriously, check out Amazon and see what wedding veils would work perfect with your dress. Check Facebook wedding groups for really awesome wedding discounts. There are a lot of buy and sell wedding Facebook groups, and you can find some killer deals in there. Mostly it's brides who have just had their wedding and are trying to sell all the stuff that they purchased for their wedding. You can get crazy awesome discounts because it will be secondhand stuff. And also, a lot of these brides are just trying to make up some money that they spent on their wedding, so you actually get the really awesome deal. We have seen brides sell everything. They sell their dresses, they sell their veils, their wedding accessories, their decorations, some fake flower setups, centerpieces. There are so much that you can find on Facebook groups that you can save tons. Have a smaller cake. Now, cakes can be really expensive as well, and the bigger they get, the more expensive they are. So we like to recommend people to buy a smaller cake and then have a large sheet cake in the back where you can serve your guests that sheet cake. We had a small cake and then we filled the table with lots of gourmet cupcakes. So that actually worked out really well, and our cake was really cheap. So smaller cake, less money. And on that note, we also recommend having a pre-cut sheet cake to serve at your wedding. A lot of venues are gonna charge you per slice for a cake cutting cost. We were quoted anything from $3 to $5 per piece of cake. That's like $500 extra if you have 100 guests, just for someone to cut your cake and serve it to your guests. Now, you can get large sheet cakes and have them pre-cut already, so you don't have to pay for all that serving and all that cutting. Save money on those extra costs and use it where you would rather use it. Skip the save the dates. You really don't need them. It's nice to have. It's fun to send a little picture of you and your fiance and announce that you're getting married, but it's really not a necessity. If you have out-of-town guests that need to know before, shoot them a text, message them on Facebook, call them up and let them know what day your wedding is going to be. Or you can even do like an e-blast and send a really cute save the date online. But don't go spending your money on save the dates if you're trying to cut costs somewhere else that you really don't want to. Save the dates, you have to pay for the actual save the date, the printing, the shipping, and then you also have to pay for postage to get to all those people. So go ahead and save that money. You don't need it. Don't spend your money on a car to drive off in. Now, this used to be a big thing back in the day, but I really don't think a lot of people do it much anymore. You don't need a drive-off car. It's cool to have photos of you driving off in like a really cool old-fashioned car, but it's something that you probably don't need. Nowadays, most bride and grooms are sticking around to the very end of the reception, so it's not like you're gonna have that real send-off big moment anyway. But then you have to take into consideration renting the car, paying for gas, paying for mileage, having to return it, and all of that, maybe paying for a driver even, and it's just not worth it. It's definitely a cost that you could cut and nobody would miss it. Skip the fancy chairs. Really, nobody cares about the chairs. As long as they're comfortable, it doesn't matter that they're decorated or fancy or plain. Especially at your wedding ceremony, if you have two different sets of chairs where one's at the ceremony, one's at the reception, I would say use the free chairs that you could get or the cheap little foldable chairs, because nobody's gonna be sitting at your ceremony that long. So go ahead and get chairs that nobody's gonna care about at the beginning, and then save the money to use on chairs at the reception if you would rather have fancy chairs. But really, nobody cares about the chairs. Plus, chairs can cost $5 to $10 a piece. Now, if you're doing chairs in your ceremony and your reception, that's a lot of money. It's still a lot of money if you just need to do one of those. Buy your dress off the rack, or used even. We know a lot of brides don't like this, and there's this faux pas about buying your dress off the rack, but really, it can save you tons of money. If you go into a bridal shop and fell in love with a dress and it fits you perfectly, you are saving hundreds of dollars. Because what you don't think about is ordering a dress that isn't off the rack, you're ordering the new one, and it comes in, but now you have to get it altered to fit you. Wedding dress alterations can be a huge chunk of change. Sometimes we've heard that alterations cost as much as the wedding dress. If you get one off the rack that fits you perfectly, you are already set and you get to save all that money. Now, secondhand dresses too. We see a lot of dresses being sold on Facebook Marketplace or Facebook wedding groups, and they are beautiful dresses that cost thousands of dollars, but now brides are selling them for really low discounts. This is because, again, there's this huge no, don't do it rule about having a secondhand dress, but really having a secondhand dress can just save you tons of money and you can actually afford your dream dress. Don't knock the secondhand dresses and don't knock the off the racks. Check them out and find a dress that's perfect for you at your budget. Opt for a dessert table. Instead of getting a lavish, huge cake, opt for a table that has a bunch of different desserts. This can be very affordable if you do it the right way. You can buy individual pies, you can buy cupcakes, you can buy candies, whatever you decide that you want to have. It's going to be cheaper having different types of desserts instead of one really large cake. One that a lot of brides forget about or don't think about is to remember all the extras that you have to pay for. Now, when you're deciding your wedding budget, you might spend the entire budget on all the stuff you want, but at the end, you're gonna forget that you have to pay taxes on this stuff, that you have to tip your servers, that you have to tip some of your vendors. You might forget having to pay for insurance or your security or an extra bartender. Wedding dress alterations is another big one. There are lots of different extras that you're gonna have to pay for that you probably didn't think about when you put out your whole budget. So make sure you research what all those extras are gonna be and set that money aside or add that to your budget. We don't want you going over budget. We want you to save money on this wedding. So as long as you plan accordingly, you shouldn't have to go over your budget. All right, we're gonna wrap this video up. It's gotten a little long, so we are gonna share our next 18 tips with you next week. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know exactly when the next video drops, and we will see you on that one.